What's going on, Matrix Madden League? Long overdue. It's been a couple of weeks since our last episode. It's your boy White Dragon with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and I have my fantastic co-host, the young blood El Pepe Tonio. What is going on, Pepe?
Hey, what's going on, homie? How you doing?
Good, man. Good, man. We got a good show in the store tonight, Peyton, so without all the pleasantries, let's jump right into it. You guys, as usual, we always break down the league administrators. For the commissioners, you have Alpha Male for now to you, the Philadelphia Eagles. I know, little play on the words there. But he is by far the most knowledgeable commissioner when it comes to just overall CFM knowledge. We look to him for a lot of advice. He's able to help us find, if people are doing some bullshit, he's in a lot of other leagues. He can say, hey, this has happened in another league and stuff like that. He's an excellent resource. The Texans, he's been a little bit under the weather lately, but he is really, really firm. He's like our attorney guy. He handles a lot of the disputes when you guys have force win situations and stuff like that. He is really good at weeding through all the different messages and everything and trying to make sure we get a good course of action. The Kansas City Chiefs, that's going to be Kendall. He is going to be mainly over all of our new awards that we're doing for Streaming Game of the Week and stuff like that. So if you guys are looking for any questions with that, you're going to go to the Texans, but he's also on the trade committee as well. Then you have myself. I'll be mainly over the graphics and the media. I'm also in the trade committee as an alternate. Then you got my man PB, the God with the Colts. He is all over the place. He is a commissioner now. He is on the graphics media team with me. He is the commissioner of the trade committee, and he is also a transaction log tracker. So, Pepe, we got to get you a pay raise, brother.
Yeah, man, I need something, man. Throw me a superstar, X Factor, something out this month.
You're out here doing a little bit of everything, man. We're all thankful for you, man. God bless you, man. You're all right. Well, tonight, you guys, we're going to do a little bit different episode. Tonight, we're going to focus on these three main categories. We're going to do trade tips, contract tips, and draft tips. We're going to break these things down. We have a lot of new guys in the league. I'm not saying you new guys need these tips, but we've got new guys in the league. We've got people that's been rocking with us for a minute that just don't know how to build a team. We've got people in here that are really outspoken and really vocal. However, they're terrible when it comes to drafting or terrible when it comes to trading. So we kind of want to just go ahead and level the playing field. That's our goal here in Matrix. Us as commissioners, we're not trying to keep all of the knowledge to ourselves. We want to have 32 people who are competent and they can compete. So we're doing this segment today to try to go ahead and level that playing field, give you guys some knowledge, give you guys some tips to be better GMs. It's not always just about how good you are at playing the game. You have to know how to do the GM stuff. So without further ado, Pepe, let's go ahead and start talking about trades. So the first thing on trades that I see a lot of people make a mistake on, you got to come correct early on to entice the other party, all right? If you guys are going beating down the door asking for Lamar Jackson and you offer a second-round pick, that person is going to laugh in your face and they're going to keep it moving. They're not going to respond to you. I know myself personally, if you guys hit me up about one of my key players and then you ask me what I want, I'm not going to respond to that. You're the one that hit me up, all right? If you guys are reaching out to somebody for a player, you better be prepared to make an offer. Go ahead.
Let me butt in on this. My bad.
Yeah.
About that though, if you come to me and you ask me for something, you ask me what do I want, and then I tell you that I want, and then you say it's not going to work. Well, then when you come to me, tell me what the hell you want or what I can get from you, so I know what's going on. Because if you say what do you want, and I tell you I want this, and this, and you say no, I can't do that. Well, you need to choose what you're wanting to give to me.
Absolutely. If you come to me and you say, hey, I want Devin White, then I'm going to tell you I want 7 first-round picks, I want a superstar quarterback, and I want an X-Factor defensive end. So be prepared if you're going to go after these key players, these guys with the crazy, ridiculous speed and the X Factor and superstar. Be prepared to offer something for that player, all right? Don't come in there offering pennies. I'm not sure what type of league some of y'all Fruit Loops are in, but ain't no Fruit Loops in this league, all right? We got a couple of maybe some marshmallows, couple of Cheerios, but ain't no Fruit Loops in here, all right? So make sure you offer the right package early on so that you don't lose the guy. Now, obviously, you might want to go a little bit on the low end. If you're going after like a key player, let's say you're going after an Aaron Donald, you could maybe start the offer with, hey, I'll give you a first and a second. But if you come in, right off the bat offering a first, Pepe, you and I like to draft. Are you going to draft, and is there a guarantee that you're going to draft a 95 overall player in the first round with an X Factor ability? Is that possible?
Nah, it's not even the X Factor, too, at that. Well, it's hard. Even if you have a first-round pick, let's say you have a first-round first pick, it's not 100% guaranteed that person's going to be an X Factor superstar.
But even that, is there going to be any rookie that comes out rated a 95 overall or a 99 overall?
The highest you might see is 77, 78.
Maybe an 80 if you're lucky.
Yeah.
But so you guys have to understand the difference in a sure thing and taking a gamble, all right? So, but we'll get to that later on. But tip number 1, come correct early on in your offers. Otherwise, nobody is going to trade with you. We got 2 or 3 guys in this league. You stay offering that bullshit right off the rip, nobody wants to trade with you. You're going to have to make it more lucrative, all right? Next point we want to go to, everybody won't value players the same way, okay? The way that Pepe values his players, he might value offensive line higher than I do. I might value wide receivers higher than he does. So you need to make sure you understand that everybody doesn't look at players the same way across the board. Just because you are a huge J.J. Watt fan, White Dragon, doesn't mean that everybody else is going to be a J.J. Watt fan. Doesn't mean that everybody else thinks he's worth 15 first-round picks. So you have to understand everybody is going to value players differently. If somebody's deep at quarterback or they're deep at defensive line, they're not really going to value you trying to send them some crap like that. So that's tip number 2. Tip number 3, understand the cap penalty before you agree to trade. We are finished with the first season, so all the freebie cap penalty shit is out the door. It's gone bye-bye. You're never going to see it, all right? The next thing is we do have some new guys that came in this year. They are going to have their cap penalties cleared. Everybody's going to get that, that one chance, like, hey, you're a new user, get your team how you want it. But all the people that were here in Season 1, we are not going to clear it again at this time. Things might change. We might offer some sort of incentive down the road. But you have to understand what the fuck you're doing. You guys are out here trying to trade away guys that are on $700 million contracts with $900 million cap penalties, and then a year down the road, your shit's going to say negative $99 million, and you got 6 players on the team. All right? You guys have got to pay attention to it. Madden is more than just playing your game. All right? There's 48 hours in each advance. You only spend about, what did you say, Pepe, like an hour playing your game?
Correct.
That gives you 47, right, if that. That gives you 47 other hours to learn your team. Learn who's on the last year of their deal. Learn who's going to cost you a lot of money if you trade them away. There's certain players that no matter what somebody is going to offer you, it would cripple your team if you trade them away. If you guys come up to me asking for, let me think of somebody on my team that's got a high cap penalty. I think...
I'll tell you right now. Give me 1 second. I'm in the game right now. I'm looking at a high cap penalty.
Okay, cool. You on the Bucks?
Shaquille Barrett has 26.5 penalty.
Okay, great example. Somebody could literally come and offer me Lamar Jackson and 3 first-round picks, and I'm not going to take it. Not because he's not worth that or that's not overpayment, but because that negative $26 million cap penalty will ruin my franchise. That's going to be $26 million counted against your cap. So that's $26 million that you're still paying Shaquille Barrett when he's on somebody else's team. So what does that mean? That means that if I trade him away, I'm paying almost all of his salary because it was a bonus. The other person is going to get that player for damn near free because they're just paying the salary. I still have the salary cap hit, and I can't go sign another player.
Let me butt in on that. Oh, my bad.
Yeah, go ahead.
If you come to me, I'm not gonna lie. If you come to me, you better have your whole damn team trying to get Jalen Ramsey, because my penalty is a $70 million penalty if I have to release him or trade him.
Absolutely. You know, I mean, you guys got to pay attention to stuff like that. And we try in the trade committee, we try to look at stuff like that. However, we have a lot of volume of trades going on, you guys. We all have a life. We all have a job and stuff like that. We cannot look at every single trade, but we do try to look at the cap penalties to make sure that nobody is ruining their team and stuff like that. So, number 3, understand the cap penalty before you agree to a trade. Get on YouTube, type in Madden cap penalty. It'll break it all down. They've probably got coloring books. You can draw in there. They might have pop-up pictures and flowers and rainbows. Be really good for some of you guys in here. Really good. Finger painting class and shit like that. So really amazing. YouTube is fucking amazing. It's amazing. All right. Whew. Number 4. Think of how this trade would affect you in the short term and the long term. So if you look at teams like the Colts, Pepe, myself with the Buccaneers, and then the Eagles with Philadelphia, we're not always going for a blockbuster head over heels trade. We're going to make a high volume of trades to acquire a whole bunch of pieces that you can move around in the future if you need to. You're not going to get Patrick Mahomes in every single trade. You are not going to get an X Factor player in every single trade. In about 2 years, if you look, the Colts, the Bucs, and the Eagles, I guarantee you we're going to have the best rosters in the game. Hands down. Because we go get those one-year players that nobody else wants. I went and grabbed Harrison Smith. Nobody else wanted him. I let the value go down a little bit. I gave a pretty fair trade, and I have one of the top 3 safeties in the game on my team. I got him for a fair deal. No, he's not going to be around for the next 10 years. Everybody, you are correct with that shit. However, as of right now, I have a top 3 safety I can utilize. You can go think of another player. Go grab a guy like a Ndamukong Suh, or go get an old guy like Jarrell Casey. Just because they're old doesn't mean they don't serve a purpose. Go get these one-year players, these stopgap players, to kind of fill your gaps in free agency or in trades, so you can then look for an answer long term. It doesn't make any sense for people to say, oh, no, I'm not going to trade for, I don't know, Drew Brees because he's so old. Well, if you just use him for that 1 year to get you to the playoffs until you can get you a different quarterback in the offseason, or, you know, you can, if you're really good, you can have you an old vet to kind of start your games off with, and then at halftime, bench him, bring in your young guy and build him up. So you got to start thinking about the short term and the long term, all right? Also think about, hey, if I trade away this rookie superstar X Factor for these other pieces, what is my team going to look like in 2 years? A lot of you guys get so caught up in thinking about just next week, but you're screwing yourself for Season 2 and Season 3 and Season 4. Then you have some of you guys that are the other way around. Some of you guys are looking at like year 2050. Bro, we are not going to make it that fucking long in this franchise. All right, we are not going to make it no 2050. We are not going to make it that far down the road. We'll probably make it between somewhere 5 and 8 seasons, depending on the pace. So understand the short-term effects, the long-term effects, and there's going to be guys out there you can get for very cheap to plug in for just a year or two. Everybody does not have to be 24 years old, superstar X Factor. And everybody is not going to be that. You've got to know when to grab these other guys to fill in gaps here and there.
I'm just going to add to that.
Yeah, go ahead.
I can't believe that some of these players just sit on the block and like nobody picks them up. Like me, like if I could have everybody, I would take them. But like, I just can't believe some of these trades, like when people are posting like these, like, and I just thought about it. So like, if some people have certain players on the block, let's say you're building a D tackle at your team, and there's another D tackle on your team that's not as good. Why not go get somebody that's 87, 88 overall older vet next to him. So you're saying he could get like a bunch of one-on-ones, you could build him, and you're not going to have problems in the middle because it's not like you're having two 70s at D tackle. You have an 80-something and you have a 70-something. So it really kind of helps out and kind of helps you build your D tackle as far as downs played, getting XP, like getting sacks. It just helps it a little bit in a sense.
Absolutely. And then, some of you guys are so afraid of players that are over 25 years old, and I have no idea why you're doing that. And I'm all for building players. But let's say on offense, let's say all of your wide receivers are young, they don't have awareness and all that shit, and then you have a piece of shit quarterback that's some bum, no trade or anything. How do you expect to build these guys when you could go out there in the trade market, go grab you a Tom Brady for cheap? Yes, he is not going to be your franchise quarterback for the next 2 years, but grab him for that year. Use him to build your other players. Just like Pepe said, if you've got a defensive tackle you're trying to build and somebody else has got a good defensive tackle on the block for cheap, go scoop him up, put him at the number 1 or number 2, however you like to run your defensive tackles, to make it easier for that other guy. You guys got to start thinking outside the box. Every trade does not have to be blockbuster, 10 first-round picks, Peyton Manning, Patrick Mahomes, Barry Sanders.
The big names, yeah.
Right. You guys got to look at these smaller ones and look at the short term, look at the long term. Also think about things like this. If you're a fringe playoff team and you're probably going to go 9-7, 8-8, 10-6, and you're just one piece away, don't be afraid to go get one of these older guys to get you over that hump. So, for example, I had Tom Brady that first year. Tom Brady was absolutely amazing. He is a dot factory. He is absolutely amazing. But the guy's like 45 years old. But he carried me. He literally carried me all the way to the NFC Championship, and I fell short by like 3 points. Now, with me, I pretty much know that I'm in a position right now in Madden where there's 3 teams that I didn't really have a good chance of beating last year or this year, and that's going to be the Eagles, that's going to be the Chiefs, and the Bills. There's a lot of teams that can beat me, but those are the 3 teams I know that I'm just not built to beat right now. I don't really have the Madden knowledge. I haven't really devoted a lot of time this year. That being said, I knew that Tom Brady wasn't going to get me where I needed to go, and I knew I needed to get ready for the future. So I put him on the block. There were some other teams out there that were maybe 6-10 teams, and were one piece away from possibly getting to the playoffs. And the Giants hit me up, and he got Tom Brady. So think about little things like that, you guys. Let's say you are a playoff team. Let's say you went last year, you won a game or 2, and you're maybe just one good corner away from getting to that Super Bowl. Well, then why don't you go ahead and get one of these old guys that you only need for 1 year, you can get for cheap, not a lot of capital, and that might put you over the hump. So you guys got to start thinking a little bit more broad. Some of you guys are very narrow-minded with your trades. Think about these different pieces and building blocks, and everything doesn't have to be a player for the next 6 years, all right?
Especially when you get the player, you're not even getting the cap penalty because the person that's giving you them, they're taking the cap penalty. So in a sense, if he's not even even if he's high on like his salary, if you have a shit ton of cap room, that has nothing to do with it. You're not getting that penalty. It's not hurting you at all.
Right, and I'm not going to say any names, but there's a couple of people in here that I've tried to work some deals out, and they've said, "Oh my God, why are you trying to send me that player? He's so expensive." And the guy's like $10 million or $12 million, but you're sitting on $100 million in cap space. Who the fuck are you going to pay? You going to pay Michael Jordan? Who are you going to pay? You got to pay somebody, and all that cap room is good, but I'm just going to be honest, you guys got to use some of it. If you all saw the free agency last year, it was not that amazing. A lot of people are going to re-sign their players in here. You're not playing against a computer. You're not playing against a bunch of fucking hobos, all right? We're all going to re-sign our players. We all like to trade in this league. This is probably one of the highest frequency trading leagues you're going to see. We're not going to trade for players and let them walk. So you're going to have to use that money wisely. And just because a guy costs $10 million, that's just for the rest of that year. Let him walk in the offseason. Let him walk away, or you can re-sign him. But know your salary cap, and especially if it's in the middle of the season, it's a guy on an expiring contract. It's crazy. In NBA and 2K, teams love those expiring contracts. You love to grab those, like, hey, let me go grab this expiring contract so I can let him walk so I can pay my other guys. Here in about a season or two, a lot of you guys are going to have trouble paying some of your players because you've got too many mid-level guys on these mid-level contracts. It is okay to have a high contract player here and there that's on an expiring deal. So think about that as well. Think about these expiring deals and think about players that you have coming up for contract. So number 5 with trades, study the other team's roster, their strengths and their weaknesses before trading. Let's take, for example, let's just throw a name out of the hat. Let's say the Packers, right? Well, the Packers have 2 stud quarterbacks, all right? They've got a young guy and they've got Aaron Rodgers. If the Packers were to come to you and say, hey, I got Aaron Rodgers for you and I want ... Well, first reaction might be, wow, I'm getting Aaron Rodgers. This guy's giving him to me for a steal. When actually he might be pulling the okie doke on you because he's deep at quarterback and he's got another one there. So you might be able to say, hey, I'll do this deal, but I need you to throw in another piece or throw in that. So you need to understand the strengths and weaknesses on the other team. The Eagles is one of the best traders I've ever seen. All right, you guys, the Eagles, he will go trade for players that are a 71 overall because they have 1 or 2 exact attribute categories that he's looking for, and he will build them up. And then they get to X Factor and people, oh my God, he's got all this shit going on. Well, you should have thought about that before you traded him that. He paid up to get his defensive line. He's got Danielle Hunter, he's got Aaron Donald, and then he's got, Cox, right?
Yeah.
Fletcher Cox. So he's got 3 superstar X Factors on the line. He overpaid to get all this, you guys. He overpaid to get it. However, you all willingly gave that to him. Don't be mad at the guy. The guy paid up. He paid up, and you all fed that to him. People didn't pay attention to his roster. He's got the best defensive line in the game, and he is already one of the best defensive players in the game. So pay attention to the strengths and weaknesses. If you're trading with another team and they say, hey, man, I'll send you this, this, and this for your first-round pick, well, take a look. They might have 7 first-round picks. I don't know about you guys, but I'm not going to try to make somebody richer. I don't want to make somebody stronger. I want to do a trade that's going to make both teams better. But, I would never want to do a trade where I get a little bit better at receiver and I make somebody else the strongest linebacking core in the game. Even though the trade might have been fair for both parties as far as return on value, this is a competitive league. We're not playing for hugs and kisses. This ain't that type of league, guys. I'm not just going to feed somebody else and make a team that much powerful. Anything to add on that one, Pepe?
Nah, yeah, back to that. If you know a player is good, honestly, I feel like even if you're trading with one of the best guys in the game, or it just depends whatever team it is, you need to see if it's gonna make their team the most overpowered team in the game, or like me, I had the Colts, bro. So there's no way I should have DeMarcus Lawrence, Jalen Ramsey, Derwin James. There's no way I should have these guys on my team.
Absolutely, there's not, and nobody can be mad at it because all of your trades went through the trade committee, and all of them you paid fair value or you overpaid for them. But you did this over the long haul. It's not like you just got a one-day deal and you got all that. You had to work your way up to getting those players. And that's kind of like what we said earlier, you guys. You got to look at stuff in building blocks. You don't always have to go get those X factors. Pepe was able to go get a couple of star development guys, go get a couple of just fast young guys, couple of superstars here. Then you package those up later and get something else. So you guys got to think about building pieces and building assets. If all you have on your team is Patrick Mahomes, let's say, the Chiefs were demolished and all there was Patrick Mahomes, well, that's the only piece you got. Go out there and get some other trade pieces. Get some other trade bait. Next thing, check the market to confirm the value of a player. And before we even jump into this one, I have this one quote that I want to break down really quick, and it came to me earlier on today, and it's called, sometimes you got to know when to rape, and you got to know when to gape. All right? What do I mean by that? What I mean is there's going to be players in the league that hit you up, and, let's say you are the Seahawks. There's going to be some players that are going to come to you, and they're going to say, hey, man, I will pay whatever it takes to get Jamal Adams. I need him. If you just say, no, I'm not trading him, well, that's stupid. That's stupid. You need to say, well, okay, yeah, I'll trade him, but you're going to have to give me X, Y, Z, dot, 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 fill every single gap you can imagine on your team, get whatever you want, make it to where there's absolutely no way somebody would turn that down if you had Jamal Adams. You want to rape somebody. And, just be open with the person. Tell them, say, hey, look, I don't want to trade Jamal Adams. Or if you're the Chiefs and you've got Patrick Mahomes, hey, look, I don't want to trade him. But if you want him that bad, I'm going to have to rape you. At least you have consent to rape. And it doesn't really make it rape then. It's consensual, So you let people know up front, hey, I don't want to trade this player away, but if you want him, you're going to have to pay up. This is how you build your team, you guys. Don't have too much faith in one player. Don't be so loyal to just one individual player. If somebody offers you the house and they offer something that you just can't imagine getting that type of return for anybody else, take it. Take it and then use those pieces to get something else. Go ahead.
Let me add right quick. I know I'm going to forget these two things. For one, let's say like you're not good at building wide receivers like me. I'm going to run the ball. I'm a pure runner. I'm hell with the ball when earning. I'm not a good passer. So what I'm going to go do is I'm going to go get a guy when I do pass on third down that's going to make something happen. Like I said, I cannot pass the ball at all, so I'm going to go get that. And if you can't build certain categories, like let's say you're not good at building let's say cornerbacks, go out there and get the best cornerbacks so you do not have to focus on them in training, and you can focus on these young guys or let's say like middle-aged guys, and you can build them, and you can focus on them every week and eventually get them up there and build them high, and you'll have no problem.
Absolutely, absolutely. So back to the quote, the other half of that. So the first part is you got to know when to rape, and then sometimes you just got to know when to gape. Well, what do I mean by that? Well, what the White Dragon means is sometimes you're going to have to spread it open, lube it up, and tell them, have your way with me because I want that player. All right? You're going to have times where you might want a certain player. You might say, hey,
that's not copyrighted, by the way.
That's not copyrighted. Not copyrighted. There might be times where you say, hey, I need Saquon Barkley. I need him. Bend me over, take what you want. I need Saquon Barkley. All right, you guys? And again, this is, I'm going to go ahead and do a quick disclaimer, no homo, with any comment. But you guys have to understand that sometimes you are just going to have to pay up. And sometimes you are just going to be able to rate people. And you got to pay attention to stuff like that. Every trade, it's impossible to get a trade that is perfectly 50-50. Somebody's going to win and somebody's going to lose. And there's different ways of winning or losing. You might lose in the short term, but you might gain a lot in the long term. So think about all these things when you trade. Before we close out this trade segment and go to the next one other thing I want to make very clear to you guys. When you're making these trades, damn, I lost my train of thought. Sorry,
I was going to say that.
Go ahead. You go ahead while I think. Yeah.
And if you post, let me go ahead and say this. If you're posting certain players or you're posting whatever player, right, and let's say not everybody is beating down the door trying to get this guy, I feel like you should try to work with the person that comes to you trying to get the person. Because at the end of the day, if nobody else is coming, two things: either something's gonna happen, you're gonna win a deal, you're gonna get what you need, pieces or whatever, picks or whatever, or nothing's gonna happen at all. And then you're just gonna be like, well, I didn't try to do anything. I guess I could just kept this player. And then you don't even want him in the long term, so you really didn't even try to work with the person that wanted him. So now you're just stuck with a player you didn't even want with a big ass contract, and now you're just sick that you have on the team.
Absolutely, and I think that kind of led me into what I was thinking about. I don't want to see people get LeBron'd in here. All right. If you got a player and you're not using him or he's not a part of your future or you're not competing, just because you want 3 first-round picks doesn't mean you're going to be able to get that. So like Peyton said, you might have to take a little bit less. A little bit less is better than nothing. I'm going to go ahead and be open with this one because Reluno is my man. We're both on the trade committee together. But Seahawks had Harrison Smith last year. He was staying firm, man. He wanted first-round picks and all that shit, and nobody was hitting him up. And I knew this, and I kept telling him, I said, look, man, you're either going to let him walk, and I'm going to go get him for free in free agency, because I will go pay those old guys. I'll go pay those old guys, and I know how to sign them and get them, and I'll teach you guys that later. But I'm going to go get them for free, or you can send them to me now, and I'll send you, some pieces here and there. And I think now he's really happy with what happened because he sees in long term what happened. Now I have Harrison Smith. I love him to death. However, I'm not going to have a playoff season, so I need to go ahead and move him to somewhere else where he can be used. The last thing I want to talk about with trades is when you guys are looking at trading your draft picks, when you're looking at trading players and things of that sort. Damn, I lost my train of thought again. I'm getting old, Pepe. Shit.
I know what I was gonna say again.
Go ahead, you finish it up.
Yeah, back to what I was saying with the whole trade thing. Yeah, man, like you were saying, don't get too attached to these players and you're like, man, I can't trade him. Or if you're trading and you don't get exactly what you want, I feel like getting somewhere close to what you want or working with somebody and you getting pieces and players is way better than, like I said, keeping a player with a big contract you're not going to utilize. You're not going to play. I mean, you're going to play him, but you're not going to utilize him as much as you would if you had 2 or 3 other players that would help your team completely way more just than that one person that's not really impacting in all different categories as far as defense, offense, special teams, whatever you might need him for. Like, I value running back. I feel like running back, if I get a running back, he can be used on special teams, punt returns. Like, it just depends how you want to utilize your different players. Like, I wouldn't just get one player. I would actually trade that one player and go get 2 or 3 or 4 other players instead of having just that one player that's not going to be as good as everything else that you're going to need.
Absolutely. And you made me bring my train of thought back. So the last thing I want to touch on, you guys, pause, is if you guys know that you are not good at building defensive line, then you might want to go trade and get a defensive lineman who's already built, who's already got X Factor, who's already got superstar. A lot of you guys in here, I'm going to keep it honest, you think you're better than you are, all right? There's a lot of y'all that are hot trash at playing the game, and that's okay. We play for fun. There's other ways to have fun, man. You can build your team through the draft and shit like that and all that good stuff. But some of you guys think that you are expert wizards and you are going to take a 51 overall normal trait player and turn him into fucking Peyton Manning, and it don't happen. So understand what you're good at. If you're not good at building running backs, then go trade for a running back. If you're not good at building quarterbacks, then don't try to build one. Go get one that's ready-made for you. So think about that stuff as well. I'm not good at building defensive linemen, so I go trade and get them. I went and signed Ndamukong Suh for cheap. I went and traded to get J.J. Watt. I drafted a defensive end in the first round. I'm not good at building defensive ends this year on Madden. I am good at building corners and stuff like that, and the safeties. I'm good at click on interceptions and click on making plays on the ball. So those are the positions where I can build. So understand what you can build and what you can't build and go trade for it. Let's move on to the next segment. We're going to try to speed up a little bit, you guys, but now we're going to go over contract tips, all right? A lot of you guys are flat out fucking retarded when it comes to your contracts. You guys don't know what you're doing. Some of you guys, I wonder if you even took basic math classes. But we're going to help you out right now because that's what we do in Matrix. Ain't that right, Pepe?
Exactly, man, because
that's
good
right.
God almighty, you guys see a fucking contract, they pull up that, like, they want this specific money and they say, oh shit, I'm going to go ahead and give it to them. I'm not going to try to work on it. I'm not going to see if I can make this contract cheaper to keep them and utilize more money for another player. None of that. Y'all like, I'm just going to give him all this $275 million, say he's my guy, and fuck all these other 11 players on the field.
Right.
I mean, these other 10 players on the field.
Absolutely. So the first tip we're going to do is, we talked about it earlier, you have to know the cap penalty. We've talked about this twice tonight. I've talked about it in other podcasts. We've made Gord alerts about it, all this shit. You guys have got to understand the cap penalty. It is part of the game. I'm not going to break it down again. We've done it so many times. I'm sick of even saying it, all right? But you guys are going to have to go to YouTube, type in Madden cap penalty, read it, understand it. That is one of the most misunderstood parts of contracts in the game. So go understand the cap penalty. Number 2, you don't need to re-sign every single player. What? I don't understand this infatuation of, oh, I got to re-sign all 29 of these piece of shit wide receivers with 81 speed. You don't got to resign these guys, man. You can let them walk. It's okay. I swear to God, it's okay to let some of these guys walk. Like Pepe was saying earlier, you know, if you got a corner that's coming up and he's like 30 years old, yeah, he might be good. But if he's asking for like a 35-year deal for $8 billion and a dishwasher and your mom's virginity, I don't know how that's possible. But you may not want to. You don't want to pay it to this guy. He may not be worth that to ruin your team. You don't have to re-sign him. Think about what it's going to do to you in the future. Also, think about it when you re-sign these players in the re-signing period or in the regular season. So when it pops up, says, hey, this player is available to be re-signed, or we get to the re-signing phase, you are going to have to pretty much split the salary and the bonus 50-50. So you're not going to be able to change that up to your advantage, which I'll teach you later. So it's going to cripple you if you try to trade them later. Let's say you re-sign.
How much do you think Stephon Gilmore's contract was to re-sign him?
There we go. Good example. All right, so Stephon Gilmore, he might want $190 million for like 6 years. He's going to want something. He's going to want something outrageous. But the problem is, if you guys re-sign them with the intent to trade them, you're making it worse because now you've already paid them that signing bonus, which is going to count against your what, Pepe?
Your team.
And your
cap penalty.
Cap penalty. So think about that. That's why it's best if somebody's on an expiring deal, ship them out during the season, because if you wait until you re-sign them, it's actually going to end up doing more harm than good. So it's okay to let some guys walk, you guys. Go ahead.
I'm going to butt in right quick. So with Stephon Gilmore, too, when these guys are coming up in the last year and they want, let's say, like, certain amount of years, certain amount of money, what you got to do is you got to kind of mess around with it. Like, he wanted, like, 4 or 5 years. In my head, I'm like, why would I give him all this money and he's going to be out his way the door eventually, and he's going to be regressing, which means, like, going down in overall and all that. So why would I pay him 7 years down the line all this money? So what I did was I signed him to a little 2-year deal. Say I'm going to give him less than what he's a 99 overall. I don't know how the hell I got him making less than $18 million a year. It's ridiculous.
Well, I have a little tip that I'm going to give out to people, and it's going to kind of go against what you said a little bit, but everything you said was right. So there's little tips you guys can do to re-sign players and get them. So let's take, for example, a Stephon Gilmore or a J.J. Watt. Well, corners regress really hard after 30, all right? So let's throw that one out of the picture. But let's take a J.J. Watt, all right? J.J. Watt is 33 years old. He plays defensive line. He has superstar X factor. He's not going to lose superstar X factor. It doesn't go away. Now, his speed might go down. His strength will go down a little bit. But he is still going to be a superstar X factor, which means I don't have to do anything. He just wrecks the line. Well, what I do in those situations, if it's a 33-year-old player, I'll offer him a 7-year deal because they're not going to be there for the last 5 years of it. So it's really only going to be a 2-year deal, and signing a player to a 7-year deal would be cheaper those first 2 years than re-signing somebody for just a 2-year deal. So there's all sorts of little tricks like that, you guys. However, you only get 2 or 3 chances to offer them a contract. So we'll get to that in our next couple of points. I don't want to jump too far ahead. But
Let me add one more thing.
Go
My
ahead.
bad. As far as J.J. Watt, you already moved him to D-tackle. Never mind. Shit. I was going to say, as far as that whole 33-year-old thing is, so if J.J. Watt's a 99 left in, and let's say next year he goes up, you see him degress or regress, whatever, go down in overall, you're like, shit, I might want to move him to D-tackle. He'll go up in the overall, still be the same player, and be more efficient at D-tackle. You also can do that. So as far as moving players around, they might have a low overall at one position, but as long as it's legal to move him somewhere else and his overall will go up and he'll still help your team, it makes more sense to do that than to keep him at that position where he'd be a lower overall kind of weaker at.
Absolutely. You know, if you've got an old corner, maybe like a Stephon Gilmore, I don't know, guys like that, when they get to those ages where they start to regress, like with the physical attributes, move them to safety. Hey, what a thought. Move them to safety because they'll end up being, 85 speed, 86 speed. Every player does not have to be 90 speed on defense, you guys. There are some players that are not 90 speed that play very well. All right, moving on to the next thing. Number 3, as far as contracts, understand the franchise tag. You guys, I'm going to go ahead and make this statement now. You have all season long to re-sign your players. The first year, there were a lot of bugs, a lot of glitches, a lot of shit was going on. I think we know what's what now. You have all season to re-sign your players, and then you have an entire day, which is called re-signing, in the off-season to re-sign these players. If you can't re-sign them, don't come crying to the commissioners, oh man, he turned me down, blah, blah, blah. That's on you, okay? You shouldn't have offered him a dumbass contract. Maybe offer them one dumbass contract, and after that say, okay, you know what? I tried to test him. He didn't fall for it. Let me go ahead and pay him what he wants. But if that doesn't happen,
Correct.
you can use your franchise tag. Every single team gets one franchise tag per season. That's NFL. That's not Matrix Madden League. That's not some bullshit. Every single team gets one franchise tag. So let's say you have a Christian McCaffrey, right, or a Saquon Barkley, and they won't re-sign with you because your team went 0-16. That's fine. Slap the franchise tag on them. They don't have a choice, and now you have them on a one-year deal, and now you get a whole nother season to try to renegotiate. Guess what? If they don't want to negotiate next year, fuck you, dude. Franchise tag again, and keep slapping it on there. So you
And
guys,
make them your bitch. Like, if they want to go somewhere, fuck, no, you're staying here.
absolutely. With the franchise tag, you guys, I'm not going to explain it too much, but I think the way it works is if it's a running back, it's going to take the top 5 contracts in the league, it's going to average that out, and then it's going to break it into half, and half of that's going to be salary, half of that's going to be a signing bonus. So it's going to be a really high signing bonus, which means if you trade that player, it's going to hurt your cap penalty. But if you want to keep that player, if there's a guy that you cannot lose, throw the franchise tag on him, all right?
Or you could be a dickhead like me. You can franchise tag a player because you don't have any players that you really wanted to keep, and then just cut them and fuck your cap penalty up or put it on there. So yeah, I did that.
Yep, absolutely. So you guys understand the franchise tag, play with it a little bit, do another offline CFM and practice with it, Google it, YouTube it, Twitter it, twat it, whatever the fuck you got to do. But understand that you get one franchise tag per season. Don't come to us with this bullshit of, oh, I can't keep this player. Well, guess what? We're going to tell you to franchise tag him. All right? Moving on, number 4 with contracts. Take age into consideration. And no, I don't just mean if they're old, don't re-sign them. What I mean is sometimes you might have those older guys who are 30, 31, 32 that you can re-sign for a 1-year deal and plug a gap just for a season or two. You guys have to start understanding there is a wide range of players. Every single player in the game is not a 99 overall, 25-year-old superstar X Factor with 99 speed. It is okay to have some old people on your team. The only person that could complain and say, oh, I can't use old people is if you're the fucking Super Bowl winner. If you guys didn't win the Super Bowl, then whatever comes out of your dumbass mouth does not make any sense because you didn't win anyways. So why don't you try something different, all right? Plug in some holes with some cheap players. Go look at the Buccaneers. Go look at the Bills. Go look at the Eagles. You're gonna look at the Colts. You're gonna go find some cheap 1-year players. Go look at the Chiefs. You're gonna find these cheap 1-year players with a high overall, 85, 87, 88. That way, let's say your star young defensive end does go down with a season-ending injury, no sweat. You got an 86 overall guy on the bench. Your season's not ruined. All right, so think about things like that. Take age into consideration when you make these contract offers. Also, it does go the other way. If you've got a guy that's 33 years old, 35 years old, 40 years old, really think about, is he going to be worth this for me moving forward? There are some players that are old and they ask for way too much money. All right, so please take age into consideration when you're offering these salaries. The last thing as far as contracts, this is something that people overlook way too much. Coach XP upgrades as far as re-signing players and free agents. We touched on this in one of our previous podcasts. I'm not going to jump too much into it, but if you guys are having trouble re-signing your players, let's say that it pops up and it tells you this is a fair offer and you offer that to them and they don't take it, well, you might need to go use that Coach XP and go beef your coach up. And you can make it to where, for a certain category, like running backs have a higher chance of re-signing with you. You can also go use your coaching XP to make it to where free agents at a certain position will be more likely to re-sign with you. So you guys have got to use your coaching XP, but don't just throw it on random crap you're not going to use. If you guys have a franchise player, let's say you got like a Joey Bosa, right? You got a Joey Bosa and he's coming up for contract and you don't want to lose him. Well, it would make sense to take some of your coaching XP and save it when it comes time to re-sign him. Go buy the re-sign influence for defensive end so that you can re-sign him and get him. Also, this is how I go get a bunch of snipes. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Let me add into that. Sometimes that shit does not work too. I'm gonna be 100% with you. So most of the time it does work, but sometimes it doesn't. I kept my coaching points because I wanted to keep my left tackle for an extra year, and I used those points to keep him an extra year so he wouldn't retire. Guess what his old ass does? He retires on me.
And you're absolutely right. Everything is not a guarantee, you guys. Remember, there is no like one-off cheat code way to fucking totally stump the system. There are gonna be some times where you just can't predict it. A lot of these coaching XP things, and if we talk to you guys about building plays or drafting and stuff like that, we're just telling you guys the highest chance for success. It doesn't mean that things still can't happen, but try to do everything you can in your favor to make it easier for you. But Pepe's 100% right though. It doesn't mean it's a guarantee. So also you can use this to make it easier for you to get free agents. All right. It doesn't mean you're going to be able to go get a free agent for $1.95 in a milkshake. It just means you can get them for a little bit less money, all right?
For example, okay, somebody in free agency, right? Like, I remember somebody saying something, but, like, let's say, like, me and the Buccaneers are bidding for a player, right? And let's say we're going to get, for example, I don't know, Sheldon Richardson. Let's say Sheldon Richardson is out there, and I'm trying to get him, and Buccaneers are trying to get him. Let's say the Chiefs has the little package or little XP points where he has the influence of D-line, and let's say he's the third bidder under me and the Buccaneers, you can have the most influence on getting that player because I've seen it happen. Somebody in the chat in this free agency we just had said it just happened to them. A guy that was third on the bid got the player over two people that were already outbidding him.
Absolutely, and he might have had that coaching XP thing, and that shit happens. So understand that, you guys. Another thing too, we didn't really break down free agents too much in today, but one thing I do want to add to that, because it kind of ties into salary. When you're re-signing your players during the season and in the player re-signing phase, they're going to like a healthy balance of multiple year contracts, high salary, and high bonus. When you are signing against players in the free agent pool, when we get to the off-season free agency, players, big hint, players really like high signing bonuses. They don't give a shit about salaries unless you're giving them also some signing bonus. So think about that. The bad thing about that is when you sign a player to a massive signing bonus, you can pretty much forget trading them away because all of that would count against the cap penalty. Yeah, let's say there's a player that's wanting like a $20 million deal for 1 year, $10 million salary, $10 million bonus. But you say, fuck it, I'm going to give him $20 million in a signing bonus. Well, he might take it. But now if you trade or cut him, you just ruin your franchise. So think about things like that. You want to have that healthy balance, but they do like those, signing bonuses. Don't forget about the signing bonuses. Go ahead.
Let me add with some of these players. So, like, certain players you want to keep too. You might not utilize them in the past game. Like, I have a tight end. I swear on everything, I do not throw this guy the ball. But when it comes to me running the football, he's going to be on the field because he has damn near highest block as my lineman. So you got to understand, like, certain of these guys that you might not want to pay high on, but you can get it for a decent price. You can keep, and they'll be completely worth it for those years that you need them as far as, like, blocking, or it could be anything.
Absolutely. And, when you guys are re-signing your players and thinking about salaries and stuff like that, I know everybody likes speed. Well, there's going to be some times where you might just need a tall, big, go up and get it wide receiver. You might need a wide receiver that's like 6'5", with like 92 jumping, and speed does not matter. Last time I checked, when you are in the end zone and you throw a fade up, how fast you are does not matter. You guys don't believe me? I had Mike Evans last year. I think his speed was only at 90. I did get him built up to 91, but his speed was a 90. By far not the fastest ever. Had like 16 touchdowns just throwing the shit up in the red zone. All right? So you're going to have some of those guys. Make sure you have different package type players. Have a power back. Have a speed back. Have a pass blocking lineman. Have some run blocking linemen. So make sure you have some balance. But let's jump into my favorite topic we're going to go over tonight, and that is draft tips. I'm going to go ahead and crown myself the draft king, and I think Pepe is the prince of drafting. We are two of the better drafters in Matrix Madden League, so we're going to tell you guys a lot of good tips. Please focus on this segment. We are going to teach you guys about drafting. So the first tip we want to give you as far as drafting, don't throw your picks away just because you don't like drafting. A lot of you clowns in here say, oh, I don't like the draft. I don't care about drafting, so I'm just going to dump all my, picks. I'm going to go ahead and trade my first and second round pick away for a couple of bum players. Remember, people are going to value those picks. Just because you don't doesn't mean that somebody else won't. Also, just because you do value your pick doesn't mean everybody else is going to think it's worth, 15 X factors. So that's another argument. But please don't just throw your draft picks away because you don't like drafting. If you don't like to draft, let the computer do it for you. The computer has actually picked some really good players for me before. They've picked good players for you, Pepe. Don't just throw them away.
The computer got me that superstar left outside linebacker.
Yeah, absolutely. I know the computers picked, back in the day, I remember they picked me a couple of superstar running backs, stuff like that. So don't sleep on the computer, you guys. If you guys don't like to draft, the computer will gladly do it for you. Last time I checked, they don't have a say-so in it. They do it for you.
Or I'm going to say this. If you're going to dump your picks, make sure you're going to get players that you're going to keep, you're going to utilize, and they're going to help your team in the long run. That's how I look at it.
Right. Don't dump away, don't get rid of your draft picks for a one-year player. Those first, second, third round picks, those can be your building blocks for the future. So the key for point number 1, though, is don't just throw your draft picks away because you don't like drafting. All right. Number 2, there are more draft busts than draft studs. And that is the most true statement you are ever going to hear. There are more draft busts than there are draft studs.
How many X Factor or superstar players in the first round do you think there are? Out of 32 picks, how many do you think there are?
So, in a totally automated, generated draft in Madden, entire draft, you usually don't see more than 3 or 4 X Factors out of 220 players. Think about that, you guys. 4 players that are X Factor at the most. I've seen 5, but that's rare. Usually it's somewhere between 2 and 4 X Factor players coming out of that rookie class. There are no guarantees in drafting. There are so many busts, it's not even funny. You guys don't believe me? I hate to call my man out, but he's my boy. I know he's rebuilding his team, but he had 2 first-round picks last year, the Jets. You'd think that with those 2 first-round picks, he would have got lucky and got some X factors. I believe both players were a normal trade. I know the Bears. The Bears had the number 1 overall pick last year. He took a corner. Guess what? That corner was fast, but he was a normal trait. So
he's a star trait.
He's a star trait now. I think he got him built up. He was normal when he first got him.
Damn.
Yeah, but he got him up. He built him, so good work from the Bears. But remember, there are more busts than there are studs. Just because you have a first-round pick does not mean you're going to get a superstar. There are 32 picks in that first round, all right? There are not going to be 32 superstars. You guys are not Houdini and fucking wizards and fortune tellers. Y'all don't know this shit. The White Dragon does, because I'm just that good. But even me, I had like 10 draft picks last year, and like out of the 10, like 5 or 6 were a straight-up bust. It is what it is. I'm still batting 50%, which is good in a draft. So understand that there is no guarantee you're going to find a superstar or an X Factor. They are very, very, very rare in the draft. Please understand that. All right. Moving on. Pay close attention to the draft news in the news section of the league, the draft combine, and the top 3 ratings that you scout a player with. Well, let's look at a few things. All right, this is not in our league, so I just started another franchise and I just ran one. But if you go to League News, you can scroll down to Draft News and you can go read some draft news about players. Oh my God, White Dragon, I didn't know that. Yes, it's true, you can do that. So, for example, let's look at this guy right here. All right, it's a League News, Draft News, a combine to forget for Love. Clemson defensive back Greg Love came into the draft with high hopes. He left demoralized after one of the poorest performances of his position. When you see negative stories about players in the draft news, 9 times out of 10, remember, nothing's a guarantee. 9 times out of 10, stay away from them. They're not going to have a trade. All right, that's a tip. That's a free one that half you guys didn't know. Go to the news and stay away from guys that have bad news about them. Give me 1 second. We're getting some posts. I'm sorry. I'm just reading some of these posts they were saying about the rape and gape.
Yeah, they're out there long.
Good shit, good shit. But yeah, so read these news articles. Also, there might be some guys in there where you look in here and it has really good storylines for them. There's a high chance they're going to have a development trait. It might only be a star, but it could say, hey, they had a good pro day, or they're impressing in their college game or whatever. You want to look at stuff like that, write that down, take a screenshot. It will help you out in the future. The other thing I said to pay attention to are the top 3 skills categories. At face value, a lot of you guys might say, oh, well, I scouted this guy and it said A+, A-, B+, like the one we're looking at on the screen for this guy, Scott Kinney. Well, yeah, that's all great, but you need to pay attention to what the categories are in. So, for example, this quarterback right here, his 3 categories, it's an A+ in throw power. That's a must. If you are drafting a quarterback in Madden 21, they have got to have A+ throw power. They got to. Maybe an A, but if you see any of the B's, don't touch the player, get away from them. You want to see A or A+. His throw accuracy deep is an A-, and then his throw accuracy short is a B+. Why does it show these 3 categories? These are his highest rated 3 categories. So, once you get past throw accuracy short, he will not have any other attribute higher than a B+. So think about that, you guys. But you want to make sure this isn't misleading, because there's going to be sometimes you might see like a defensive end and you're going to say, wow, look at this, it's cool, it says B+, B+, B+. But if you actually pay attention, sometimes those are categories which aren't really good for defensive end. It might be like a B+ in something like zone coverage, or a B+ in hit power, and a B+ in something else. Well, it sounds great, but things that you really want to see like a defensive end having these good categories in are like block shed. You want to see power moves, finesse moves, strength, play rec, things like that. So understand the position and understand what you need to be looking for. If this quarterback, if you looked at this right here and it said like carrying, the carry rating was like an A-, well, that doesn't really do you that much good. Yeah, I mean, I guess if you want to scramble a lot, but you want to see some throwing categories in here for your quarterbacks, all right? The other thing you want to pay attention to is if you look up in the top right corner and the bottom right corner, so it says projected pick, mid-first rounder, and then talent, late first rounder. This is confirming that he is a good player. All the stars have aligned, all right? He was projected to be a mid-first round pick, and his talent after you scout him is a late first round pick. So he is a solid guy. He may not have a trait, but if you follow these things and look at those 3 skills and you look at the top right corner of what he's projected and then you scout him and you get the talent grade, that's going to give you the best chance for success. Also, another tip, look at their age. So this guy's 22. So usually to get those superstar and X Factor guys out of the draft, you want to see players that are 22 years old or younger, 3 categories that are A or higher or close to A, like some B+, and then you want to confirm his projected draft round with the talent grade, all right? And you want to see it in green. So let's look at it on the flip side. So here's another quarterback I'm scouting. He's projected to be a mid-second rounder, but after you scout him, his talent level is an early 7th rounder. Now, he could still have a trait, that's possible, but this guy is going to come out of the draft like a 59 overall or a 61 overall. So you want to make sure that you are scouting these players. Do not leave any stone unturned. Do not let your scouting points go to waste. You need to make sure you scout everybody, because a lot of people might have thought, oh man, I drafted this quarterback, James McClain, in the 2nd round, and he's a fucking bum. Well, had you just scouted him, you would have seen. Yes, he does have that 22-year-old age. Yes, he's got the throw power of an A+, but then if you go look at the talent level, he's got an early 7th round talent level. Also, it's a little bit misleading because he's got the A+ throw power. The throw accuracy short is a B+. Then he's got a throw accuracy deep as a B, but everything after that is going to be at least a C+ or lower for the most part. And also, Madden's a little bit off this year, so if you see an A+ in throw power, that doesn't necessarily mean it would really be an A+. So if I think A+, I'm thinking 96 or higher. And that's not the case this year in Madden. If you see an A+, that's probably going to be more like 92 to 95. So whatever it graded is as far as the letter, bring it down just a notch this year in Madden. Anything you want to add about when you scout a player, Pepe, about scouting these drafted players, these generated players?
So you already, I mean, I'm pretty sure you already told them about like using the coaches' points to get more points for the players and stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely. You guys make sure that, when you do the Coach XP, try to buy the Expert Scouting, because that'll take you from 175 weekly scouting points to 200 scouting points. One more tip, if you pay attention when you're scouting these skills, if you don't have, well, for the most part, the first category is going to cost 15 points. The next one's going to be 10 points. And the last one is going to be 7 points or whatever. No, I'm sorry, 5 or something like that. If the first category you scout on somebody is a D or a C, stop. Stop right there. Do not scout that player anymore. Don't scout them again.
I'm not gonna say that, bro. I have to disagree because I drafted to it.
For the most part. Now, you waited until the Combine came out, which we're going to touch on here in a second.
Oh, okay.
So Combine, but we're not to the Combine yet, you guys. So without the Combine, if you guys are scouting players like a quarterback, offensive line, stuff like that, and you see some C's popping up here, don't waste any more scouting points, all right? One more thing, too, if you're scouting players before the Combine, you want to focus on your quarterbacks, focus on the offensive line, defensive line, players that you don't need to really know the Combine too much. Wide receivers and running backs, everybody wants a really fast running back, a really fast wide receiver, or a really strong running back. Well, you shouldn't really waste too many of your scouting points. Wait for the Combine to come out, look at the Combine report, then you go scout those players. But now you can't just totally forget about them altogether. You got to scout a few of them. Go ahead and maybe knock out like the round 1, round 2 guys, and after that, save up. You'll have some points in the offseason and use them. Number 4, draft tip.
Oh, my God.
What happened?
No, I'm just working on this trade. No, you can continue.
Working on trades now. All right, number 4, the number 4 draft tip. Draft players from the deepest class position for the highest chance at a development trait. White Dragon, whatever do you mean by that? I don't like reading a whole bunch of words together on one fucking screen. Well, let me break it down for you, young blood. Let's take a look at this example right here. All right, so this is a random generated draft. This is not our league. This is an outside one. So if you look right here, this draft class of quarterbacks, there's one guy projected first round, one guy projected second round, one third round guy, and a couple of fourth round guys. This is not a very deep draft class in quarterback. So I wouldn't really go after a quarterback in this draft because you're not going to get good value. I'm not saying that there is not an X factor or a superstar in this group right here, but there's a very low chance for it because it's not really deep here. You want to give yourself the best opportunity for success. So pretty much, in this draft class, if you don't draft that Scott Kenny guy, you have a really low chance of getting a trait with any of these other quarterbacks. So think about that. So let me show you a different example. So look at this wide receiver class right here. So this wide receiver class has 5 projected first round receivers in it. This is an extremely deep receiver draft class right here. So if you were going to draft something in this draft class as far as offense, you would want to go for the wide receiver because there's 5 guys projected in the first round. Scout them and make sure that confirms, like we just said a couple of slides ago. But now you have a higher chance of getting a trade at one of those guys because it's deep there. So think about it. There's 5 first round talent wide receivers. If you take any one of them, you got a 1 in 5 chance of one of them being pretty good. One of those 5 guys is probably going to have something. So think about that, all right? Go back one slide. If you look again at the quarterbacks, I wouldn't really go drafting a quarterback in this draft class right here because it's not really deep. But again, if you absolutely need one, then go do what you got to do. But I would try to go get value right here. When you draft, always think about value, all right? Here's another example. Look at this center lineup. These are offensive linemen. They're centers. Very weak class of centers. 3rd round, 5th round, 5th round, 6, 6, 7. Just because they're the best center in the draft does not mean they're any good. So now again, you could scout these guys and they could end up having ridiculous skills, and they might have a really good combine. They might have that third round might be their projection, but actually after you scout them, they might show like a first round actual talent grade. So again, you'll have to do further analysis on this, but think about that. And here's one more example. Look at how deep this defensive tackle class is right here in this generated draft that I did. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 defensive tackles projected in that first round. So you want to try to go after those positions that are really deep in that class. So defensive tackle is really deep in this one. You would have a better chance of success going after somebody like that. Peyton, anything you want to add to that part before I move forward?
Nah, man, you pretty much summed everything up, honestly.
Okay, the last thing as far as drafting, set your draft board and trade away picks if you can't draft. I can't say this enough, you guys. You have got to set your draft board. It's very simple. It does take a little bit of time. After you scout everybody, you just go through and hit triangle to add them to your draft board, but then you have to go organize it. So after you go add everybody to your draft board, you're going to have to cycle through and go to it, and then you'll hold X on the player, and you can just push up or down, and you can rank them higher or lower. And that way, if you're unable to draft, the computer's going to draft in whatever order you set it up to do if that player is available. If that player is not available, it'll go to the next person. So not going to break that down too much. You can mess with it online. You can look it up on YouTube or whatever. But I think that's the last part of this. Yeah, so as far as drafting, the biggest tips I want you to walk away from here is understand every single person in the draft is not going to be a stud. Madden is a lot different than it was 5 years ago. Most of the rookies that come in, they're going to be rated in the high 60s, low 70s, all right? If you draft a guy that's a 70 overall, that is not a bum, okay? He is not a bum. The rating spread is a lot different in Madden now. Certain positions have higher and lower ratings as well. Running backs usually come out of the draft rated higher overall than any other position, but they have the lowest chance for superstar or X factor. That's another tip from the White Dragon. So if you're going to get those running backs, understand most of them are not going to have superstar or X factor. There are going to be a lot of normals and a couple of stars mixed in there. So think about that, but they will have it higher overall. Quarterbacks are going to have lower overalls. You're going to see a lot of mid-60s, high 60s quarterbacks, but you're going to have a pretty decent chance for the traits. So look at each position, run a couple of simulated drafts. I'm not sure how Peyton got his skills to drafting where they are, but aside from me playing Madden since like before a lot of you guys were born, back in like Madden 01, Madden 02.
96, fucker.
Well, I think back then I was playing like John Elway on Nintendo. I didn't have a lot of money. I couldn't afford the other shit, so I just had a little Nintendo playing John Elway football. It's like little boxes and squares and shit. But yeah, so the other thing that I do, you guys, is whenever Madden first comes out, I do a couple of offline or online CFMs with just me in it, and I just keep simulating seasons and get to a draft, and I go do a draft, and I see how I did. I kind of gather research. I kind of see, I might need to look out for this. I have a higher chance for a trait. No joke, you guys, I probably do at least 100 drafts on every single Madden. So Madden 20, I probably did well over 100 drafts. This one so far, I've probably done over 50. And I'll just run on there, simulate the whole season, knock the draft out, and you just kind of practice with it. Just like you guys got to practice your plays, you got to practice the draft. Also, you can practice the off season. You can kind of see, what type of money it's going to take to get guys. You can kind of understand the layout of the off season and shit like that. So that's everything for the training, you guys. Sorry it's taken so long, but I did say it's going to be a long show. This is the last part. This is going to be a new, fun, interactive segment, and it's called On the Block. So what I did is I put a Gord alert out. I told people, I said, hey, if you have any players that are on the block, let me know. I will put them in the chat, and then Pepe and I are going to break them down, what's good about them, and what would be some realistic offers. So without further ado, let's jump right into it, Pepe. So Pepe, I'm with the Dallas Cowboys. Amari Cooper. Cooper the Pooper is on the block. Just kidding. I actually like Amari Cooper. He's a really solid wide receiver. He's pretty much, top 10 across the board in a lot of categories. May not be the fastest, but he's got good acceleration, excellent catching, good catch in traffic, good short route, good medium route, good deep route, good spectacular catch, good release, good agility, good jumping. He is solid. And he's got that superstar X factor. Peyton, if you could pull up Amari Cooper, I'm not sure what his abilities are.
I'm on it right now.
All right, what are the abilities?
So he has Rackham up, and then his superstar abilities, he has Outside Apprentice and Deep Out Elite.
Okay, so this is a guy that you're going to be able to put out there, put on your out routes, comebacks, hitches. May not be a burner downfield, but you'll really be able to get some good animations with a lot of those that out route superstar ability. Also, the rack 'em up, I think he's got a higher chance to get to win rack catches, correct?
Yeah, that is correct. And his ratings are pretty disgusting because he has 96 agility, 91 jump, and 93 release. He has 93 deep route, 95 medium, and 96 short route.
Yeah, and you guys, all these other wide receivers you're looking at that have, 8 million speed and 96 speed or whatever, just because they're fast does not mean they're going to get open. Yes, there are some routes that you can get them open if you have a good setup and you're against the right defense, but then you've got guys like Amari Cooper who just get open and they just catch the ball. I had Mike Evans last year. He was an X factor. I traded him over to Pepe with the Colts. Not the fastest wide receiver, but the dude just gets open, and you just throw it up to him.
And he wins one-on-ones. Good God.
Oh, yeah, he wins a lot. I miss him, dude. I really miss him. I wish I had him so I could keep building this rookie quarterback. But Amari Cooper, he's not the biggest guy. He's not the fastest guy, but he catches the ball, and he gets open. If you guys are lacking a true, real number one wide receiver, it's hard to find them in the draft. You might want to go get Amari Cooper. His contract, if you could pull his contract up, I think he's a bit expensive.
I'm on it right now. His contract is, so what does he has? Let's see, for 2021, 2022, 2023, and 2024, we're making $22 million. That's 4 years, $61 million.
So he's costing a lot of money, but he's locked up. So you guys don't have to run that risk of him walking away from you, anything like that. You'll have him, he's 27, so he'll pretty much be good for the rest of this season. When he's 28, when he's 29, when he's 30, so that's 4 years. When he's 31, he might start to fall off a little bit. You could move him to the slot, hint, hint, tip, tip. But that's another good 4 years. So if you guys need a solid wide receiver, just like we talked about earlier with the draft picks are a crapshoot. They are not a guarantee. If you know you need a wide receiver, instead of taking that risk on a wide receiver, go get yourself a guarantee. I know he's looking for some draft picks. Let's throw some ideas out there, what you're thinking, Pepe. I'm thinking maybe you could do like a first and maybe like a one or two other pieces to kind of throw in there. Not going to be studs, but like a first and some Star Trek guys or some maybe older guys that have X Factor or something like that.
Or not even, if you can't get a first out of them, definitely try to get two studs or two decent players they're going to be starters for you, and go get like a second, third, 2-4. Just something decent, man. If you don't really want them, you're not going to really utilize them. I would go get pieces that you need for your team and that that's going to be starters, and just get some draft picks and just, go draft you wide receiver or just try to trade to get a replacement or something like that.
Yeah, and I know that with the Cowboys, they're pretty loaded as far as talent, so I think the biggest thing he's going to be looking for, I know he said he wants picks, but he said he's also willing to trade for players. So you guys, be prepared. If you're offering him players, you're going to need to offer superstar or superstar X Factor, all right? He's a 27-year-old X Factor wide receiver. You're going to have to include first-round picks and or superstar or X Factors to go get him, all right? But I know he's willing to make some moves. He is an expensive wide receiver. However, he's locked up on your contract, and you guys, you got to pay somebody. Everybody can't cost a nickel. Somebody's got to get that bread.
Unless you're on my team.
Yeah, but at some point you're going to have to pay them. Moving on to the Buffalo Bills. So we have Vosean Joseph. All right, he's
Vosean just going to the team right now.
This is the Bills. He's a left outside linebacker. He's a 6'1", 226-pound, 23-year-old outside linebacker. A lot of people are turned off by that normal trait. However, he is 23 years old.
87 speed, 82 hit power.
Yes, 87 speed, 82 hit power. And he has 90 acceleration, all right? You guys, everybody is not going to have a trait. If you guys need an outside linebacker to bring some speed to your team, You can probably get him for a reasonable price. The Bills, he's actually a very reasonable trader. I think he offers very good deals. You get very good value. I think he just wants to find a new home for this guy. He wants to go get some picks. I think he traded a lot of his picks away. So if you guys need an outside linebacker, if you're looking to plug a hole up, or let's say you just want some depth, you could go get him. You could move him around, left outside linebacker, right outside linebacker, and he's got speed.
Management says he's a heathen in the locker room, so I'm not too sure if he fights with people or starts fights or whatever. But a couple problems off the field. In the locker room, they just don't like the guy. But they say he sees a psychologist. I can't even say the word.
Well, that might be to y'all's advantage. So he's making trouble in the locker room up there in Buffalo. So go bring him to your locker room. Let him make trouble there. All right. Moving on from. Oh, actually, so let's do a break. What do you think would be a fair trade? I'm thinking you're not gonna get a first. You're not gonna get a first. You're not gonna get a second.
Not gonna get a second. Probably like a 3, 4, 4, 5, maybe.
Yeah, somewhere.
And if you can't get that, probably kind of try to drag it out, maybe.
Yeah, somewhere in there, somewhere like 3 through 5, and that's gonna depend on, the package. It's gonna depend on, how good.
70-something overall player. My bad, I mean to cut you off. Like a 70-something overall player that can kind of like match up with him if it makes sense.
Right, something like that. And an and/or. It could be like, let's say you really need a linebacker, and let's say you're a playoff team. You could maybe throw in like a 3, 4, 5, and then like a building piece. Or let's say you've got an older player to plug a gap or something like that. But I know the Bills is looking for a draft pick. Not going to get a first, not going to get a second, but I think somewhere in that range of 3 through 5, and it might take 2 picks. It might take one this year, one next year, but don't think he's worth a first or a second, but he's definitely worth a mid-round pick. And this is what Pepe and I were talking about. Don't sleep on players like this, you guys. When you guys get a chance to go get a player like this, the Bills is being polite. I mean, this is a nice player. 87 speed, 82 hit power. That 90 acceleration. He's coming off the edge. He's zooming, and he's only 23. Go get him for a reasonable price now. You can build him. Because if you don't build him, I'll tell you one thing. The Bills is going to build him. He'll eventually end up being a star, maybe even superstar, and then the price goes way, way up. So,
exactly.
So do like Pepe and I do. Go get these mid-level guys to use to trade down the road in a package deal. You may not need him now, but you might have an injury, and you can throw him in. Moving on to the Jaguars, another pretty good trader. He has middle linebacker Joe Schobert. He is 6'1", 245 pound, 27-year-old player with that star trait. Some people are turned off with that speed of 83. You guys, this is not Madden 20. It's not Madden 21. I'm sorry, Madden 19. Usering is not as good as it used to be. Most of you guys, I think you know by now, you need to user some safeties, or you might want to put you can put a safety down in the sub linebacker position. And really change of direction is a good thing to use this year. And I'll be honest, I've even played on the line a little bit this year because it's really good to get use the right stick and try to get those bull rush and the swim moves. But don't be turned off by that 83 speed. That's not too bad, but he's got really good categories and other things, such as play recognition, 89, awareness, 88, hit power solid at an 80, really good tackling at an 84, acceleration at an 86, pursuit, 88, solid zone coverage as well. So think about that, you guys. That's a 78 zone coverage middle linebacker. That's something really solid. If you've got some bum linebackers, or let's say you've got a young guy you're trying to build, or you got an old guy out the door, you got to take advantage of guys like Joe Schobert. You can go get him for a decent trade value. You're not going to have to pay the house up, and at least you can fill a gap, and you have a piece for the future. And this is, remember, I keep saying this, Pepe and I are always thinking about getting players to add to a deal later on. Go trade for Joe Schobert. There might be a trade in the future where you're trying to get that superstar X factor, and the other guy's like, man, I just need a little bit more. Well, then you sweeten the deal. You say, hey, I'll tell you what, I'll throw Joe Schobert on top. That might get you that deal. So think outside the box. What type of trade are you thinking for Joe Schobert here, Pepe?
I don't know. I'm looking at his numbers right now. That shit is crazy. He's 27 so far. The age, I wouldn't say he's that old, but he has 89 play rec, 88 awareness, 83 speed. I mean, he's decent.
Yeah, he's.
I'll try to get like a 3-ish.
I think you could get a. I think a second, depending on the team, would work. He's not worth the first.
Yeah.
He's not worth the first. I think a second A second would be pretty good. I could understand a 3 or maybe some sort of combination, like a couple of 3s or like a 2 1 year, 3 1 year, something like that. Or you did like a 3 and a player, a 2 and a player.
Because he is a star. He could be a superstar if he goes to the right team. If somebody works for him, he could
right.
be a
If somebody
superstar.
works with him, he could be. I could maybe even see like 2 2s and maybe him give something else up. So he's opened the door, you guys. I mean, there's all different things you could do. You could try to get him and another player in the deal. But I definitely think he's worth. He could get a 2. I'm not saying he should, but he could get a 2. I could see him go for a 3 or a pair of 3s. 2 4s and a player. But many different ways this trade could go. Just because he's middle age, he's 27, so he's got a good 3 or 4 years left of being top tier. If you play your cards right, he could get up to superstar, and I could easily see him making it up to a 90 overall, and that's going to be better than most of y'all's bum-ass middle linebackers that you got, just being honest. Moving on, he also has free safety Gerard Wilson up for sale. He's also 27 years old, no trait, but he's a 6'2" free safety. And he's got some speed on him. He's got 90 speed, 76 zone coverage, 77 pursuit, 90 acceleration. He's actually got 76 zone coverage as well. So this is one of those guys you could actually move over to corner if you wanted to. Have yourself a 6'2", 210-pound corner with 90 speed.
Injury.
Yes. So really solid guy. Don't see him going for a 1, obviously. I don't see that happening. A 2 might be a little challenging just because there's no star trait. However, if somebody is hurting at safety, I wouldn't veto a second for this guy because you're not going to find a 77 overall free safety in the second round. So I could maybe see a second for this, but more likely a combination of multiple picks. I'm thinking multiple picks, mid picks. 3, maybe a 3 and a 4. You could do a 2. It would just depend. Like if you're like a playoff team or something like that, and it's like a late 2, and that's all you've got to offer. I could see something like that. Or I could see some mid-level players, or like an older player, or maybe just like hey, I need a lineman. You got a free safety. One other quick thing, you guys. It's kind of off topic. Linemen are one of the toughest things to trade for in our league because there are not that many good ones. So a 75 overall lineman is worth more than a 75 overall corner or a 75 overall running back. So please think about that. Understand that every overall is different for each position. All right. But this is a solid player. If I wasn't really, really deep, at DBs, I would go grab him. But I've got DBs all over the place. I don't have any room for him. But what do you think about Gerard Wilson?
Solid player. So he's a solid. I mean, like I said, probably at multiple picks in like a 3-4 or it just depends. Like if you're hurting at safety, then this is not a bad guy to have a starter or I don't know, even in big nickel, you can put him at linebacker or move him around. This is not a bad guy because he has 90 speed. I mean, he's decent. You can very much utilize him.
And that's one thing people aren't thinking about. You guys got to remember, if you go to your depth chart, you can put a corner or a safety in at linebacker in the sub linebacker position, and that is really OP this year. And this guy would fit the bill. He's 6'2", 210 pounds. He's got good acceleration, good speed, good awareness. This might be a guy you could use for like a sub linebacker package, or you could put him at nickel. Be a really good nickel guy.
I was gonna say that's why I went and got Jordan Poyer, man. I traded 2/3 and went and got Jordan Poyer, so I have big nickel. I'm putting Poyer at linebacker because I got Malik Hooker back there and I have Derwin James. So at that point, I have a superstar safety at middle linebacker. I'm letting him do what he wants in the middle.
And everybody else slept on him because he's 30 years old. And nobody, felt like they needed him. Well, people weren't thinking outside the box. You guys, we talked about trades already. You have to think outside the box. You got to get those players. If it says superstar or X Factor, you can throw age out the window. They're going to do work for you. Now, yes, they may not be there 19 years down the road. They may not be there in Madden 35, but they're there right now, and they can help your team. And that's going to lead us into Harrison Smith. Again, I do not have to trade this guy away, you guys. I absolutely don't. He is amazing on my team. He's got some really good abilities. If you could pull them up, Pepe, his abilities
right now.
They're phenomenal. What's his abilities?
So he has reinforcement as his X factor, and his superstar abilities. He has bench press and tip drill.
Bench press is extremely OP this year, you guys, and it's so OP, Madden had to patch it a couple of weeks back. It's not quite as good as it used to be, but really good abilities. A lot of people get scared of the age. Oh, I can't have a 32-year-old guy. He's going to be slow. Well, this guy's speed is 87. His acceleration is 91. His zone coverage is 92. His man coverage is 81. His hit power is 93. The only reason I'm putting him on the block, I'm probably not going to make the playoffs this year. There's probably somebody out there who is a fringe playoff team like we talked about earlier, or who is one piece away from getting to an NFC championship, or one piece away from being a Super Bowl contender. This could be that piece you need. Yes, this is not going to be your future franchise free safety, although I do believe he's going to play another year because he's asking for a contract extension. However, he is going to have that superstar X factor forever. Most people watching this podcast, he's probably better than any DB on your team. Again, I don't have to trade him, and I have actually started putting him in the corner. I'm sorry, the nickel position, because I recently traded for another strong safety that's got a star trait that's younger that I'm going to start building. If I didn't have the other guy, then that's probably what I would start doing. But again, he is amazing. Now, he is on his final year of his contract, so it's either going to be a one and done for you guys, or you're going to have to pay him and bring him back. But he is locked up under contract. It's $10 million. That's reasonable. Pepe, can you... Yeah, it's $10 million. You are going to have to re-sign him. When I trade my players, some people do some shady shit, you guys, and you need to pay attention to this. Some guys will try to re-sign a player. They refuse to re-sign, and they trade them away to you. Be careful with that. What I usually do is, if I have the slightest idea I might trade a player, I don't even try to re-sign them because I don't want to fuck somebody else over. I don't know if that affects it or not, but I don't want to try to fuck somebody over that I'm trading. I do good business. What are you thinking for Harrison Smith? I'm going to be honest. I think a first is not going to happen. I'm not stupid. He's not worth a first. I'm thinking maybe a 2 to a contender. Somewhere in there, if you're not a contender, I would see maybe like a pair of picks. I wouldn't mind like a young player. What are you thinking of something for Harrison Smith?
Let me look at my roster right quick. I'm pretty sure I can find something for him. Let me look.
Well, no. I'm sorry. What are you thinking to be out there in the market?
No, this bullshit. No, Harrison Smith, I like a second or third or replacement, or like a second and 2 players debating what their overalls are. But definitely, that's a guy that can go start for any team. I don't understand why people have not. If I had the picks and I had my thirds back and I had like a second or first back, I'm going to get Harrison Smith because he's going to be good for 2 or 3 years on the line. If you have the cap room and room for him to play.
Absolutely. And, like I said, you guys, I mean, he can be a 1-year stopgap where you build somebody else, or, re-sign him and plug him in here and there, use him at the sub linebacker position, but I don't need to trade him. And if I don't get him traded, I will re-sign him. I'm a huge Harrison Smith fan. But just like I said earlier, you guys, I'm trying to build some other players. There's probably somebody who could make him, make him a Super Bowl champion or something like that.
My bad. I'm about to play my game right now, bro.
All right, go ahead and go ahead and sign off. I got the rest of it, brother.
All right, man. Y'all fellas take it easy and enjoy the block. Oh, Jarrell Casey on the block, by the way. So if you need to be tackle, holla at me.
Oh, yeah. You got I'll see you later, Pepe. But you guys, the Colts didn't get his players to me in time to put on the trade block, so he does have players hit him up. Jarrell Casey's one of them. The next player I've got on the block, Jordan Whitehead. He's only 24 years old. He's a 76 overall. Yes, he's a normal trait. But he's got 86 speed, he's got 89 acceleration, 79 hit power, 82 awareness. I'm not looking for the house, you guys. However, he is 24 years old. I'm looking for some mid-level picks or some other players I can build in return. I'm just really deep at safety. If you guys want a young safety to build, I've got Jordan Whitehead. Next, I am considering trading Ali Marpet. All right. You guys, I'm not trading him away for pennies. We talked about this earlier. Offensive linemen are the hardest positions to build, and they're some of the rarest higher overall players. He is 6'4", 307 pounds, 28 years old, star trait 92 overall. Offensive linemen usually play until they're 33, 34, 35. So if you trade for Ali Marpet, He's not going to retire on you. You will have your lineman for the rest of the franchise. So Ali Marpet, he is going to cost. He's a 92 overall player. He is going to cost you at least a first, but I am looking to make some trades, other pieces, but he's going to cost. But I'm willing to trade him because I've got a pretty good line. I don't mind trading him away. I'm also trading away Vita Vea. Vita Vea is 26 years old. He is one of the strongest players in the game. I think he's got 98 strength. I'm willing to do a package deal. I got Vita Vea, Harrison Smith, Ali Marpet. I can move them all around. One deal, 2 for 1, whatever I have to do. I don't really need Vita Vea. I'm really deep on defensive line. I've got J.J. Watt. I moved him to defensive tackle, but I'll gladly keep him. So I will gladly keep Vita Vea if I need to, but there might be somebody out there who maybe you've got a team that doesn't have a lot of talent on it and you just want to go ahead and get a jump start on the draft or something like that. I will be looking for draft picks for him. The last player that I have on the block, Nickel Roby-Coleman, I'm not asking for much at all. I'm just trying to help out another team out there. I'll be looking for a mid-level pick somewhere in the middle rounds. You can have Roby-Coleman. He is very solid. He's got really good man coverage. He's got really good zone coverage. His speed's only like 88 or 89. But, last time I checked, everybody's corners are not 95 speed. But if you need him, come get him. If not, I'll keep him. He's a good depth player if anything crazy happens. That's pretty much it, you guys. I know this was a really, really, really long podcast, but we haven't had one in a couple of weeks. I hope you liked it. If you would, please smash that like button on YouTube for me and subscribe if you can. It helps us out. We're trying to make sure that we get Matrix Madden League out there as much as possible. If you guys have any questions, hit us up. You guys, I'm getting ready to go handle some stuff outside of the league. Thank you for watching. Good episode. Thank you all for playing your games. See you next time.